First came the sexual assault. Then for this Oregon teen, she says the system failed her. We first told her story last fall. Now she's sitting down with us for the first time, detailing what she says was a system failure in response to her public YouTube video, as schools across our county reckon with their policies for handling sexual violence. Investigative reporter Naomi Coles has the story.
3 years ago, a moment that's changing Bree Opliger's life to this day.
I kept saying that I wasn't in the mood or wasn't ready.
She was 14 at a party with her 17-year-old boyfriend. She said no, he didn't listen.
I didn't really tell anyone about it until a couple of months later when I found out that another girl had gotten assaulted by the same guy. After doing that, that's when we ended up reporting it to our counselors.
What happened next is what drove Bree years later to tape the YouTube video when she first went public with her story last fall.
I want the school to wake up.
She, the other victim, and the school counselor all sat down with the then school resource officer at Oregon High School. She says the officer made comments about her abuser sleeping worse than her at night and would later tell her it was too late to press charges.
That made me feel hopeless, but also it didn't really give me any closure. So I feel like that was a very important part of what I needed at that time.
Fast forward to today. After Bree went locally viral with her story, Oregon police reopened the investigation. We got the records. It wasn't too late to press charges, but this time Bree says she'd come to terms.
Kind of get closure. I wouldn't really call it closure, but I've had time to sit with it. I kind of came to terms with the fact that there probably wouldn't be any evidence of it happening.
The real issue for her, how the officer had handled her case and how she says neither he nor the school fully gave her the information she needed at the time.
They didn't really explain it very well, and that kind of scared me away from, making my mind up right on the spot.
So she filed a civil complaint about the officer, who is still with the department. Days ago, the chief emailed Bree. Her complaints, unsubstantiated. The chief said there wasn't enough evidence the officer told her that she couldn't press charges or that he had made inappropriate comments to her during the meeting.
You could tell that they definitely took the officer's side, and it was definitely a biased investigation.
The chief said in her email that the core evidence, the body cam footage of the interview, has since been purged. When we reached out for comment, the chief sent a statement nearly identical to the one she issued 3 months ago, saying they support victims but encourage them to come forward as soon as possible.
What we want is really clear definition.
Bree isn't the only one seeking change in how schools and police handle sexual violence between students. High schools in Madison and Sun Prairie last fall staged walkouts in protest, and now schools are responding.
It is a really wonderful thing to watch students advocate for themselves and the services that they want and need.
Dane Pelabon from the Rape Crisis Center says they're now working with many schools in the area to respond with better education, resources, and policies.
So there is an awakening that is happening. It started with the Me Too movement, and we had a time period in there where most of what we were concerned about is COVID, but as the students are back in schools and as the problems that have been there all along are having light shed on them, we are really seeing an activation in a new way.
Bree didn't have the education she needed at 14 to take power over her choices. That's what the Rape Crisis Center is trying to bring to schools. But justice can also look different for everyone.
Our concern is what happens with the survivors of sexual violence. The school's concern is what happens on both sides. So sometimes that is a delicate balance, and sometimes justice doesn't look like how a survivor may want it to look.
For Bree, still healing after the trauma of sitting next to her abuser in class and watching him graduate without repercussions.
I'm taking back my story.
She's in this now for everyone.
I don't want it to happen to anyone else, so I'm just going to keep pushing, keep going until I get the response that I want.
The school tells me they've partnered with the Rape Crisis Center and have done survivor circles, school assemblies, and student counseling after this event. For Bree, the investigation might be closed and her complaints unsubstantiated, but the story is not over. She says she's done some volunteering for the Rape Crisis Center, and given how impactful this assault was, she's now considering whether helping survivors may become part of her career. For more details, you can check online later tonight at channel3000.com.